Welcome back. You're listening to Get Real with Bob and Stacy. You're joining us for our Leaders and Legends segment. Our guest is Roseann Sdoia, Boston Marathon survivor and author of Perfect Strangers. Welcome to the show, Roseann.
Thank you, Bob. Thanks, Stacy.
So I want to give everybody some background. First of all, Roseann is a returning guest. We don't have a lot of people that come on the show multiple times, but Roseann came on a couple of years ago. Mm-hmm. She is a Boston Marathon bombing survivor and amputee. She's making great strides in changing the lives of others. As one of the top motivational speakers and more recently a published author of Perfect Strangers, Roseann combines her powerful personal story of perseverance with her professional corporate background and offers lessons learned through her challenging comeback journey as insightful, motivational tools that everyone can use to discover their own unstoppable strength. Roseann's mantra is that life is only as positive as you make it. It serves as the foundation for redefining one's own mindset and achieving every personal and professional goal and ultimately living a happier, richer, and more fulfilling life. So first, Roseann, tell us all about the new book, Perfect Strangers.
Early on, so many people would hear the story and say, you should write a book, you should write a book, you should write a book. And I think if you're told enough times you should do something, it eventually happens. Mm-hmm. So basically, it was one of those things, too, that I wanted to do because so many stories came out of the Boston Marathon, and you heard a lot of the bad endings for people and situations. But for me and three of my first responders, there's a great scenario that came out of it where the four of us formed this very close bond where not only do I feel like we're friends, but I also feel like we're family. And then through it, you read and find out that things are even more, I don't even know how to explain it, but are better for me and for one of the first responders as now that we're engaged to get married in October. So it's a story about good. It's a story of tragedy turning into something positive.
So first of all, was it hard to write, like reliving all of it, or was it more that you were focusing on the positive, so it was all positive?
It wasn't too difficult for me because I obviously live with it every day, and quite honestly, I still feel like it happened to somebody else. Mm-hmm. So I've kind of removed myself from it. I don't know if it's just part of my my brain's defense mechanism or not, but I do feel like it's somebody else. However, I think it was very cathartic for Shayna, Shores, and Mike to really kind of tell their story. Mm-hmm. And when I was going through the editing stages of it, I would read it as a book, all of our chapters in the order that they were going to go. And I found it personally a page turner because I didn't know all the detail from Shayna. I didn't know all the detail from Shores, and I didn't know all the detail from Mike. So even though I know how the book ends, it was very interesting for me to read it, and I really felt as though that I was reading somebody else's book. Wow. So it's been a positive thing for me, and I think speaking about the marathon right from the beginning, doing all the interviews that I did early on and talking about it really helped me kind of work through a lot because it's weird when you say that you've been in a terrorist attack. It's just
right.
It still seems so surreal.
Right. Okay, so to give everybody some context, Mike was a first responder who you didn't know previously, and since the bombings and since being one of your rescuers, you guys formed an unbelievable bond and relationship, now engaged to be married in October. Can you also share with us a little bit about Shayna and Shores? Who are they?
Absolutely. So Shores, at the time, was just a college student. He was out having a great time with his buddies, bouncing from one bar to the next, and just happened to be across the street on Boylston Street when the first bomb went off. And then, obviously, within 10 seconds, 12 seconds later, the second bomb went off. And he made the choice to really run in and help, found me sitting on the sidewalk and helped carry me to the middle of Boylston Street where he thought it was a little bit safer. Mm-hmm. And so he basically is the one that held the tourniquet on my leg and really, without any medical training or knowledge just really kind of held the belt tight and made sure that all the bleeding had been diminished as much as possible. And then Shayna Catone, she's a Boston police officer, she came upon shores holding the tourniquet and stopped to help. And she basically kept me focused, kept me calm, got information for me to contact my family to let them know that I had been injured, and helped in the transportation of me getting to the hospital, as well as, she was in the front of the wagon that took me to the hospital, and then Mike had loaded me into the back, and that's more or less when I got to meet him.
Wow. What an amazing story. Something so beautiful that came out of something so tragic. So I'd love to have you talk about the public speaking that you're doing. I'll also at the end share my experience, because I've had Roseann come out and do an event at my company a few years ago. So first, tell us about what your public speaking is all about.
So I've been speaking with corporations, with schools, graduations, and really for me, it's about sharing the positive side of things and how even though I was traumatically injured, that I'm okay, and you can be okay. And it's really kind of about making choices in life. And on the street on Boylston Street, I made the choice at that moment to be calm and remain calm so that I could make sure that I did what I could do to control the situation. Because obviously there was so much of that day that I could not control, but I could control my emotions and do what I could to stay alive. And so really speaking about the positivity and choices in life, and really overcoming these objectives that happen to us, that, you might be having a bad day, but it can get better tomorrow, but it's your choice to whether or not it gets better tomorrow. And, we all have bad days. It's really up to you to figure out how to overcome that. It's nobody else's decision on how you deal with it.
Right.
So, I've really enjoyed doing that, and I really enjoy speaking with schools, anywhere from grade schools up to colleges, because I find that in those ages, people are, non-assuming, or that'll never happen to me, and your life can change in a matter of a split second, as mine did, and then you have to figure out where you go from there. So I just want to really kind of share that word and spread it. And also, if I help one person in an audience that may be dealing with a family member or themselves or a friend who might be having a difficult time with something, that, they can reach out to me, they can speak with me afterwards, or, get in touch, but it can be okay, but it takes a lot of time and patience.
Right. So what does life look like for you now, 4 years later?
It's good. I have no complaints. I think we all have our daily complaints of different issues. Mine's just a different set of them, but it's good. And I really enjoy doing the public speaking and going on the book tour and talking about why I chose to write the book and the process that it takes. The whole publication industry is a unique one. I mean, Stacey, for yourself, you've written a few books, and it's very interesting to see that side and the opportunities that I've been given. I just actually spoke at a congressional briefing this past week in regards to rehabilitation, and medical devices for, the medical bill, the health bill that they're trying to pass. And I feel like it's given me a chance to make a difference in the world, and possibly to make a difference in somebody else's life that might be going through a tough time. So I just really kind of look forward to doing more of that and really kind of helping people.
Do you ever feel fear, either going out into public places or just some of the stuff you're doing? Like, I would feel extremely fearful of speaking in front of a congressional hearing. So my question is, when do you feel fear, and how do you get past your fear?
So the fear that I have the most is being in an unknown place by myself with my leg exposed, because I feel as though that is, my Achilles heel, where I'm not as that I don't have as much defense as I would have had if I were a fully able-bodied person. So there's certain times that I do get a little anxious about it. Sometimes being in large crowds, especially with everything that's been going on in the world these days. The sad thing is it's going to keep happening, and it's, this homegrown type terrorism that is very hard to predict. So that gives me a little bit of uneasiness, but I do really try to fight the fact that I don't want them to change my life from any other way that they already have. And, so I really try to make sure that I attend different sporting events, or I've gone back to the marathon for the last 4 years.
Wow.
And I really want to make sure that I don't want to be a homebody sitting in a room, not going outside because I'm afraid. As for the congressional hearing, it didn't scare me to do that because I'm only speaking about what I know and trying to inform people of things that unless you've gone through it, you would never understand or know, and hopefully educate a few more people to think and put a face and a name with these situations. And if I can do that to help me and others, then, so be it.
Right.
I think that's kind of what I was intended to do with this happening to me.
Right. Well, as I mentioned, for anybody listening, I had Roseann out speaking at an event 3 years ago. And so it was fairly new. It had happened, I think, within a year before. And people still talk about it today, that you were one of the most inspiring people that they had the opportunity to meet and hear from, because basically the message was about the silver linings in life. And no matter how bad it gets, there always seems to be a silver lining. And sometimes you don't feel it when you're right in the middle of it. But if you wait it out long enough, you end up looking back and you see all the good things that come out of some of the hardest challenges that we face.
Absolutely. And it was so early on when I spoke with you. I wish I could have a redo at some point.
Okay, Dawn.
I was very emotional at the time, and it was all still very confusing. And I think 4 years out from it, obviously I have a different thought process and pattern, and it's not as raw as it was. And I think that getting my message across, I can get my message across better these days, and not have it be as emotional. Because I really do feel like every day that the further I get away, it's almost like it happened to somebody else. So I'm almost kind of detached from it in a sense, but yet still have all of the knowledge that I've learned from it.
Right. So when you see stuff happen in the world, like there was the bombing at the Ariana Grande concert, things like that. So when you see stuff like that, because I know how much of a giving person you are and you just want to help people, like, what do? Like, I know you want to call and figure out a way to help those people to start the healing process. What can you do? Do you just sit back and wait and see if people reach out to you?
I do, Stacey, because you know what? It's such a personal time, and there are so many organizations out there. As a matter of fact, one of my friends, my now friends, her name is Sarah Reinerson, and she's very involved with the Challenge Athletes Foundation, and she does a lot with Nike, and she's come into contact with different people, especially some people from the Belgium experience. And, she's like, would you speak with this person? And absolutely. So there's like groups of people that are out there going immediately to visiting these people or being in touch with these people. And they know that I'm willing and more than happy to contact them or reach out, especially locally. I just was visiting somebody, it was a friend of a friend of a friend who happened to have an unusual heart situation due to having the flu, believe it or not, and ended up having to have his leg amputated. And they were like, can you go visit him? And I was like, tell me when and where, and I'll go. Because I did find it very comforting in the beginning of that, all these people came to help me, and I just want to pay it forward. And in a sense, too, there's so many organizations when these crazy big things happen that, kind of go and help. It's the people that aren't part of that big crazy situation that needs a little bit more support too, because they aren't so known in any case, really. You know, they're not in the public eye because they had cancer and they lost a limb, or they got hit by a car and they lost a limb. So, you know, doing things just as locally is just as important as going out to these bigger news story scenarios. But any sort of help that I can give and that people reach out to me, I'm more than ready to get on a plane and go wherever and do whatever I can.
So we have today, you're listening to Roseann Sdoia. Her new book is Perfect Strangers. Roseann, where is the best place that people can contact you for speaking or buy the book?
I have a website, which is robostrong.com. So it's R-O for Roseann, B-O for Boston, Strong. It's all one word, robostrong.com. And they can reach out through email via that, or my phone number's on there as well. And there's also links to purchasing the book if they would like to.
Wow, that's awesome. So Roseann Sdoia and her book's Perfect Strangers, her website, robostrong.com. Thank you so much for joining us today, Roseann.
Thanks, Roseann.
Thanks, Bob. Thanks, Stacey.
That's going to do it for this edition of Get Real. Join us again next weekend for more.